What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Mark's Remarks. I'm your host, Mark Radigan, here as always. And this week, I'm pleased to announce the beginning of a new series that I've been planning for a very long time that I've coined the French Connection. Over the next few weeks and months, I will be bringing you a series of interviews featuring players and coaches from the University of Rhode Island women's basketball program. My goal is to set out and figure out what has caused this program to evolve over the past 5 to 6 years, going from one of the most underappreciated and unknown programs in the country to now towards the pinnacle of women's basketball, not only in New England, but across the nation. The following is a recording of a conversation that I had with the University of Rhode Island women's basketball head coach, Tammi Reiss. During this conversation, we discussed her overall career to date, her decision to come coach in Kingston after leaving Syracuse, what it has taken to build this program, and the recruiting pipeline that's come along with it, the impact of her taking the time to coach for USA basketball and participate in the 2024 Paris Olympics, and what is ahead for URI women's basketball in this ever-changing college athletics landscape. Enjoy. Yeah, to kind of jump into it, I want to first learn about just how you ended up in Kingston. Obviously, a storied coaching career at Syracuse. You boast a really strong connection to Syracuse, something that Coach Amadou and I were talking about when I interviewed him a couple weeks ago. But, I mean, if you can just walk me through kind of how you got in contact with the University of Rhode Island and just overall what that process was like for you going over from an assistant coach role into that head coaching job and just what that was like.
Well, I think, I was at Syracuse for 4 years. Quentin Hillsman, the head coach, brought me. I was out west for a very long time. From 1997, when I got drafted in the WNBA, I'd spent from 97 to 2010, 11 in Utah. And so 10, 11 to years, I was down in California. So Quentin brought me back 15, 16 season to Syracuse. So I got to come home to the East Coast and I was forever thankful. And so really from jump, getting back in the swing of things, we went right to a national championship game at the Cuse, and I spent 4 glorious years there. But I really at that point, towards my last season there, felt that I either I had to start. We say shit or get off the pot. I was getting older. It was my time. Do I want to be a head coach? And if I don't start looking, I'm not going to be with my age. And so I really started to look at some East Coast schools. I was not going anywhere but the East Coast. And so when Rhode Island came up, I remember talking with my agent, and I knew nothing about Rhode Island. I had never even been here. And she was like, Tammi, it fits you perfectly. Fits your lifestyle, the beach, the food, the school, the setting of the school, and it's a builder. You're a builder. You want to take something that's broken and you like fixing it. You like creating in your vision. And so, I sent my resume in, I sent my everything in, and I remember Shane Donaldson going to Thor and putting my resume on his desk and saying, "This is the one, give her a call." And then I got a phone call from Thor, and from that point on, we zinged. He could finish my sentences. Our mission statements were the same, our vision was the same. And he flew up to Syracuse. We had a breakfast. I came down here, and he offered me the job. And so before I took it, I had a meeting with Agni Amadou, my great friend and assistant coach at Syracuse with me, and said he was looking to get out as well. And I said, listen, let's go start our vision. Let's go create what we're talking about, where we want to go. We have very similar philosophies in our beliefs, in our mission statement of why we coach and what we wanted to create. And so, once I accepted the job, we were here. And that then started the French relocation of many players here in the United States followed us here, because Agni placed them in various schools. And to build a program, especially a program that's in the bottom and not winning, no American kid wanted to come here. of any substance anyway. And so we got very good players to come here. Unfortunately, they had to sit. That was back when you had to sit a year when you transferred. And so we had some very good talent follow us in, and it was the French connection. And then once those kids are successful in a program, they will follow because you do what you promise those kids. You get them to where they want to go. You give them the student athlete experience they want, and then they become great pros. And here come the next generation. And then the coaches and the agents and the handlers and everyone in France starts to trust you. And so we've built a reputation now of developing the French players, getting to where they need to be, giving them back to France as better players and as better women. And so that's the story of how I came to Rhode Island, how Agni Amadou came to Rhode Island, and then how many players followed us. You know, I was no dummy. I knew, you know, he had the in with a lot of players, and that was going to be our connection. And that's how we got so many great French players to come to Rhode Island.
I remember during a press conference you had at some point during the 2022-23 season when you guys won the A10 regular season title. I remember you were reflecting on your initial thoughts and feelings when you first got to Rhode Island, how in the first couple weeks you felt that maybe it wasn't the best decision. You felt a lot of emotions during that point, and it was a bit of a difficult time for you, as like going away from what you had known for so long to, like you said, somewhere that you had never been before. And I feel like that there's a parallel there to what some of these athletes that you've brought in may have felt when they first came to URI. And when I spoke with Coach Amadou, he really talked about trying to establish a level of trust, because it's such a serious decision to have to travel thousands of miles away from home to somewhere you may have never been before to pursue what you're passionate about. And looking back on those initial weeks and days for you when you were joining this program, do you ever look back on that and try to remember how that felt for you to try and empathize with what some of your athletes may be feeling when you're trying to either recruit them to come in or when they actually do get here and they're trying to adjust?
Well, first and foremost, I was a student athlete. So I've done what they've done at a very high level. And and so I know what it feels like to, you know, leave home. Now, international is a whole nother level. They have so many barriers to overcome, but to leave home, new set of teammates, new system, new coaches, new school, new family, new teacher, new everything, and the adjustment, it's a lot. And as a player, I remember that I always put myself as a player first. What did I go through my freshman year, my sophomore year, you know, because I have that experience and I'm a female. It's different for males, everything's different. And so I've been where they are now. And then as a coach, when I first got here, you know, the newness of it, the shock of you know, stepping up from an assistant to a head coach. It's different. Being in this head coaching seat, I don't care what, you know, when you're assistant coach, you know everything. It's so easy because you don't have to have every answer for everyone, and you're not the one everyone's looking at when you win, lose, or draw. It's your program. You're going to take the heat. No assistant ever takes that heat. And so it is completely different seat. And so when I got here, having to implement a culture in all the operations and all the systems, and it was overwhelming. There were nights I cried. I said this, like, what did I do? What did I do? It was a lot, but again, you bear down and you know, you persevere, and adversity is good, and you grow from losses. That first year, you know, losing and getting beat by 20 plus and all of that, that's motivating. That's perseverance. That's adversity. That's growth. That drives the competitive people. That drove me to want to win even more and to recruit harder and to be better and to grow as a coach. And so I remember all those things as a player and a coach. So when you have kids in, the only difference is, you know, when I was a player, we didn't have anything. We didn't get anything. We didn't get cost of attendance. We didn't get Alston Act. We didn't get NIL. Couldn't transfer. You had to sit. You know, the coaches and the teachers were always right. And your parents said that. Do what they say. I called my parents when I was a freshman and tried to transfer. You know what my dad said?
What do you say?
We don't do that. Do what your coach says. You're probably not doing something. That's why. And that was it. And you battled. You were taught how to battle through adversity. Nowadays it's a little bit different. And so I definitely have met, I've changed as a coach. I try to meet every year. I try to meet this new gen. We call it the Generation Z. They have their own Generation Z, and we have meetings about how to teach them how they learn. I've never had to do this with any other generation, and so the one thing, I definitely sympathize with them and have to change, but the one thing I will not sacrifice is our culture here and our standard. And I believe in blue collar. I believe in you earn what you get. And so the kids we recruit are very well adjusted to that. They know the expectation here. You do not just get and get and get more and give less. That's not who we are here. If you get NIL, you're going to earn it. If you get Alston Act, I don't care if the minimum is a 2.0, we get it over a 3.0 and the standard is a 3.3. So our level is just higher here, and I will not lower my standards. But I have changing my coaching style to be a better communicator, to be more positive, to accommodate how they learn because of technology. There are things you just have to grow as a coach. Doesn't mean you change your standards, but you do have to understand what this new generation is, how they learn, and how to acclimate them as quickly as possible and put them in a position to be successful. And that is what, as a coach this year, I've really tried to work on, and really helping our student athletes. And this year in particular, I have to be. We're very young. We've got a lot of new faces. And so I have to stay positive with them. I have to be that mentor, that encourager. I have to be a teacher this year and really watch their growth and be process oriented. And so, these are the things as a coach, every day you knock your head against the wall and you just try to be better. But as times have changed rapidly in our world now of athletics, I won't even call it college anymore because it's just athletics. Um, it 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 it's become a business, but my mission statement is still to grow and mentor people and be transformational and not transactional. And that's been the hardest part of maneuvering through the new college athletics or just athletics in general.
Well, your standards and the what that represents on the court is fairly evident, and it seems that everyone, regardless of whether they're from the United States or from abroad, really buys into that. And you mentioned really how after the first year, like you wanted to get bigger and really start to branch out with the recruiting. And I'm curious, you obviously Coach Amadou being from France has that sort of connection, but how much of a focus did you try to put in yourself in getting to know some of these girls during those early parts of the recruiting process? Were there times where you went out to France with Coach Amadou to try and get to know some of these players on a face-to-face level, or rather to get more of a feel for the character that they have? Because it's fairly obvious that you have a certain style of player and a certain style of person that you go after based on the standards that you set both on and off the court. So I imagine that has to take a lot of real personal research and a lot of personal soul searching in order to find that guard or that forward that really embodies everything that you want them to.
Well, the key is, listen, we don't have an unlimited budget. So the FaceTime and the phone calls and the relationshiping and the texts, and it's nonstop communication. Once we pinpoint, whether it's American or European, we build relationships. It's what we do. we get to know the kids, we get to know their families, we get to know their coaches, and we get to know, do they fit our culture and will they be successful here? If not, it's a no. Um, and so I I wish we had an unlimited budget. I wish I could get on a plane and go to Europe with Agni, but I have to handle the United States recruiting. So when all the FIBA events take place and when everything takes place over there, Agni's the international recruiter. My job is once we identify him, I got to do this. I got to be on the phone with him, all summer long. I got to get to know him. I got to text him. I got to FaceTime him. And so now all our coaches do that. We all have to get to know our kids. Even our kids do that, our current players. So by the time they get here, they know everybody. It's not, oh, they're trying to acclimate. They know us, they know our kids. They feel very comfortable with us. And so that's just relationshiping. But unlimited budget, we do not have. You can talk to Thor about that. I'd love to go to France on multiple occasions or wherever the FIBAs are, under 18, under 20, under 16, doesn't matter. The other thing is everything's now on Synergy. So all the FIBAs, you can watch, you don't have to even fly there. You can watch every game on your computer. And so, I think one thing that COVID taught us is you can work smarter and be more economical. And as a businesswoman, that's just what we have to do. We don't have unlimited resources. And so you learn how to relationship very, very well. And we do that very, very well. You know, one thing that really hurt our program the past 3 years, and that's been my USA basketball, taking me away in the summers, where I really have to coach. I'm missing tournaments. I'm missing kids, and I think it really hurt our US recruiting. Now that I'm back this summer, we just signed two really, really good kids, high level. Our recruiting had to be better. It just had to. Our United States recruiting had to be better. And I went out and I got two really high level recruiters, who can set the table for me, whether I'm gone or not. And they've done that this year, a great for our future classes. And so, that hurt us a little bit. The portal in May and April, I'm gone with USA Basketball. The visits, it's just it now that that's over, I can really focus on Rhody basketball. I'm forever thankful for that experience, but it's time to get back to recruiting and getting high level kids in here, high talent, and me doing my job in that respect. So, that's what we're going to do here. And we're going to set the table for the next 3 or 4 years.
That's actually really interesting because one of the things that I had been thinking of in the build up to this interview was about the impact that you being a part of that Olympic, that 3v3 Olympic roster, um, and what that meant for you, and in terms of just the notoriety that you got from being a part of that tournament in Paris, and then being a part of just like really showcasing URI women's basketball to the world as like representative for that, and it being in France especially. And I was honestly curious if you thought that that played any sort of role in how well the recruiting went in France, or if you think that that may have had any sort of positives in terms of getting more eyes on URI women's basketball as a program abroad.
Well, and initially, my thought was it was one of my goals that as a player I never achieved. So, selfishly, I wanted to do USA basketball to get to the Olympics. Number one, number two, I wanted to increase my my coaching knowledge, and the skill level and the way you play the 3x3 lends a great deal to your 5-on-5 concepts of being able to play without dribbling the damn basketball everywhere and dominating the ball. Um, and then just, stealing from other coaches, especially abroad, and recruiting abroad. So I had my intentions of why I did it. Obviously, it worked out that the Olympics were in France. That just was a plus, that some of my players could come to the games, to the Olympics, that a lot of the French kids and coaches were there and knew that I coached, internationally and coached 3x3 basketball. So that just helps our recruiting in France, getting Rhode Island's name, my name out there. Why we recruit so much in France. Again, it's another cap in our feather when we go abroad and go back over to France. So it all came together like the perfect storm. When it just lent that it happened to be in France. So that you know was great, but really I did it for selfish reasons. I wanted to be in the Olympics. I wanted to cross that goal off, that bucket list off. I'm very competitive, and I wanted a chance to coach at the highest level with the highest athletes on the highest stage. And it doesn't get higher than the Olympics.
I don't really think anybody would knock you for making a selfish decision in that regard and wanting to coach at the Olympics. And I mean, it was incredible to watch from home, but to see someone from the University of Rhode Island take such a high stage like that was really neat to see. And I feel like that it was representative of just the work that you've done, and it just represented just how the program has grown to a point where there's so much attention on it to where these opportunities are justified to give them to members of your program like yourself. But so to kind of shift back toward the recruiting, there was another thing that you mentioned that I was thinking about more is the fact that it's almost secondary for you. Once Coach Amadou makes some of those introductions with those athletes and he takes charge on the European recruiting, that's when you step in and you meet some of the prospective candidates to join your program over FaceTime, over text, and so on. And so I'm curious, just he mentioned a lot about the message that he tries to give the athletes and their families in order to make sure that they're comfortable with this decision and that they're comfortable choosing Rhode Island, that it's good for them as an athlete, but also as a student and as a person. Are there any specific messages that you give these athletes or you give their families during this, let's call it like second round set of speaking with coaches when you actually get the chance to talk to them over the phone or talk to them on FaceTime?
Our message is always the same. We take care of their kids like they're our own daughters. Their welfare is of the utmost importance. And, coaches will always say that culture. And now the programs that it's a business and it's becoming more and more of a business where you got to win or you're fired. So the welfare of the student athlete, I'm process oriented. I love winning. Don't get me wrong. I'm competitive. But the reason I coach is because my coach took care of me. I had the best student athlete experience. If I could do it all over again, I would have went there 4 years, another 4 years, another 4 years. Those 4 years were the best 4 years of my life. My senior year in high school and my 4 years in college. And my coaching staff took care of all of us. And it was a family. And to this day, I can call her for anything I need. I can call any one of my sisters from UVA for anything I need. And so when we're talking families, and other coaches can say they take care of their kids, they skill develop, they do all the things that we have a very long list of the things we do for our young women. Um, no one, and I can say it, lives in the gym as much as we do with our kids. No one spends as much time off the court. And probably Shaka Smart, because that's his philosophy as well. He will outwork, he will spend more time than any other coaching staff in the country with his players off the court. Dinners, lunches, film sessions, coffee talks, anything it takes to take care of what his boys need, he does. And that's our philosophy. And so ensuring the parents know that they're going to come overseas, over here, that they will be taken care of to the utmost degree, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's off the court as young women, and the value system and the morality and the character and what we instill in them. And then obviously their skill development on the court. We will teach them how to be champions. And, a lot of coaches can say that, but I don't know how many coaches at URI have won a championship, have a 3.63 GPA, and have, you know, God, most of their kids go play pro. I don't know how many coaches can say that. And, you know, take care of their young women or young men off the court at all hours of the night at all. I think we do a really, really good job at that. I really do. And We may not have the most NIL in the country. But if you're looking for certain things, those are the things we sell. And they're not buildings and it's not materialistic. It's the people that are going to touch you and pour into you and get you to where you want to go. Because that's what does it. The people, not the buildings, not the money. That's not going to make you a better player. And so, we sell that. We sell family. And we sell the student athlete welfare. And then our program sells itself. How we develop our kids, how many kids we've placed overseas in EuroLeague and different leagues and in the WNBA from every school that we've touched. Um, it's a very really long laundry list. And so that's what sells our program. And I'm really proud of that. And that's whether it's international or whether it's American, they all hear that. They all hear the same exact message from every one of our coaches and every one of our players. And all our recruits talk to our whole team. They talk to everyone before they even visit. And so that's the reason they visit. We pass the test. We check the boxes and then they come on their visit. And then, hopefully they love it enough. They see if they fit or they don't fit. Um, and they make their decision. And that's really what we sell.
And it sounds like that's really what plays a big part into the culture that you establish, this like all encompassing that we are a family. Like this isn't just a team, that this program is a family. And one of the things that I spoke about with Coach Amadou that I was really curious to hear what you had to say was how you feel you've been able to establish this culture while having such a diverse locker room. Because since your first or second season, you've had at least 5 or 6 athletes that haven't been from the United States. And there's a major cultural divide that comes with that. There's a language barrier and so on. And obviously, there's a specific style of character that you're recruiting in these players. But I have to imagine that there can be some difficulties when you're trying to get everyone to be all uniform and aligned with these sorts of goals from time to time. But more or less, just having such a diverse locker room, do you feel that with the how everyone's so bought into the culture, do you feel that that just really enhances how strong of an identity you guys have because there are so many differences that are in that locker room?
Well, I think, they say love has no language. It just, you feel love. You don't even have to speak the same language, and love is universal. It's the same thing when you're talking about family and culture, morality, high character, your value system, how parents raise kids. It doesn't matter if it's in LA, Florida, Maine, France, Finland, New York City, it doesn't matter. So when we recruit to our culture, we know exactly what we're recruiting. When we interview, it can be a language barrier. It can be when the parents say, my daughter is going to get a 4.0. She's going to live in the gym. We raised her to be respectful. She's going to say please and thank you. You don't have to give her anything. We want you to be hard on her. She's a we before the me. You don't need language for that. The kids have been raised with that. That's what we look for. You can't make a leopard change its spots. So when I go into a home and the kid's speaking back to the mom and they're swearing and just disrespectful and thank you, but no thank you, I walk right out. I don't sacrifice that to win. That's how your locker room, it's not language barriers. It's not where you grew up. It's how you were raised in your belief system and your morality and your value system. So if I go get a kid that's complete opposite of our culture, well, now I have a problem. When I sacrifice winning, oh, this kid may be, God, she's so talented. And she's the complete opposite of what we expect in our standard. And she's out running around smoking and drinking and the me over the we and disrespectful to every, well, now you got problems. So it's not the language, it's not the international kids. It's actually, we recruit, they fit in just perfect. Some of them don't even speak English and they fit in just perfect because they were raised to our standard, to our culture, to our expectation. We don't allow those other things to happen. If you recruit that and you think you can change someone, maybe, maybe not. I found more so, maybe not. 17 years of being raised one way, you know how hard it is to break a habit? And you think you're going to be able to change them in a year? Because they'll transfer if they don't fit. So it's not 4 years anymore. It's not, if they don't fit the first year, they're most likely gone. And so, and we're not perfect. We make a lot of mistakes, and kids make a lot of mistakes. It's never the kid's fault because they want to transfer. It's never the coach's fault. Usually lies somewhere in between. Um, we don't see eye to eye anymore. And so we've tried to do a really good job of recruiting the right kids that fit. And whether they transfer, it's usually playing time. It's the role that they want that they're not getting, or they've become a really good player and now they want to play at a higher level, and we don't have the money to keep them. We don't. So if someone offers one of my kids $150,000 and they're an all conference first team MVP, and I can't match that, and they get to play in one of the best leagues in the country on TV, and their exposure to get drafted increases that much more, what would you do? I know what I would do. So I can't fault them because that's the world we live in. So, we still do our best to recruit to our culture and have them fit in, and then we can just coach basketball. We don't have to coach anything else. But the international kids, they fit just perfectly. Again, there can be a language, and it's a language barrier. That's all it is. But they fit. They raise them right in France. They raise them right in India. They raise them right in Ireland, and they fit us perfectly. We just have to get their English sometimes up to par to be able to communicate with them. But other than that, I think that's probably the biggest barrier, is being able to communicate their first year. They get very frustrated where they don't understand sitting in the classroom and the professor's talking, and sometimes they don't understand all the vocabulary or the concepts. Same thing on the basketball court. It takes them a while to adjust. That's probably for them one of the most frustrating things. Then they have no voice. They want to talk, but they don't know what to say. So as a coach, you're screaming at them, I need you to talk more. And it's usually the language barrier. Coach, I don't know if I'm saying the right thing. It's not that they don't want to. So usually for the internationals, the language barrier is probably the hardest thing to get over at first.
And you keep mentioning just how you want them to be successful in the classroom as well as on the court, and mentioning how being a student can have some difficulties, especially with the language barrier. And one of the things that Coach Amadou and I spoke about was the overall connection between the university and the university's athletic department, and particularly how strong of a French program the university has. And he talked about gave a lot of credit to the university and how it's one of the few that he's seen where both the university and the athletic departments are aligned. And they really both are operating lockstep to try and get the most out of the student athletes and really ensure that they are as well rounded as possible. I'm curious as to what you think of that, and just how you feel the university itself has been able to help you get these girls into the positions where you want them to be to ensure that they're able to stay successful in the classroom, and just overall how you feel the university and what they've been able to accomplish as students first has allowed them to grow and translate some of that growth and success onto the court.
Well, I think that the biggest thing is not every school, and I've been at the biggies. I've been at, BCS football schools and basketball, and it's win at all costs. Half the guys don't graduate, half the people don't go to class. School could care less about their APR, and they're just winning championships and making money. Um, and they're fine with that. It's transactional. But my philosophy, and one of the reasons I came to Rhode Island, was administration here, especially the school president, the board of trustees, anyone you talk to, they care about academics. They care about the student athlete. Student athlete. It's why I chose to come to Rhode Island. And so they provide the resources for our athletes to be successful. So if you're an athlete and you get everything you need to be successful, my standard is then you need to be successful. And I love that about our university. I love the fact that they give us what we need. They hold our student athletes accountable, and especially that aligns with our vision. And so I'm not a coach that's going against the grain, telling my kids they have to go to class, telling my kids they need to get a 3.0, telling my kids I want them on dean's list, they can't miss study hall. And then the school aligns with that. And so when they graduate, they're set up for success, especially young women. It's not like we're not pros making billions and millions of dollars where, you know, you're going to go just, I'm a basketball player. No, you're a student athlete. And so it's really, really important that we found a school that supports that vision. And it wasn't just all about basketball. You know, again, I want to win. I'm very competitive, but I also was valedictorian in my high school class. I also was dean's list at Virginia, and I used my degree every day in everything I do, whether I own businesses, whether I'm the CEO of this basketball, it doesn't, of my team, it doesn't matter. You need your degree. And so that's extremely important. And so our school has done an amazing job supporting our student athletes.
And I know you probably got some other stuff that you got to do. You have a very busy schedule. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I do want to just segue into this last little segment, more or less talking about what the future has in store for this program. Because obviously, you firmly believe that success can come for this program. We've seen it in the fact that you were able to get a regular season title in 2023. We saw it in the fact that you signed a 10-year contract to stay in Kingston to continue to build this program into a juggernaut. And we're seeing that in real time. I mean, even this season, you guys are heading down to Mexico to play in a small tournament featuring the likes of Iowa. And for a school like URI with a women's program just like 5, 6, 7 years ago, that wouldn't have even been thought of. And so I'm really curious to just see what your vision is for this program moving forward, knowing what has already been put in place in terms of the frameworks that you have for recruiting and this focus that you have on European talent, particularly in France. How do you see this overall process evolving? How do you see the recruitment of French players or European players evolving? And just overall, where do you see this program going in the next season, in the next 3, 5, 7, however long it may be?
Well, first and foremost, you can't really look past tomorrow in the landscape of what we're dealing with now in college athletics. There'll be new court rulings, there'll be new lawsuits, there'll be changes every 6 months. The NCAA, there's some sort of change, and so you, as a coach, you have to be fluid. So I'm concerned with this year. I'm concerned with growing our team. We're very young, very young. We have a lot of new faces. We've got to embrace the process. We've got to get better every day, and we've got to put ourselves in a position to be highly competitive. And obviously, we always want to win the championship and go to postseason. So, you know, we got to get some work done this year. After this year, it's really setting up our recruiting, whether it's international or American. I'm back, and so we're signing American kids now, and we're going to get really good American kids. We're going to take the best available. Meaning whether it's we don't discriminate. They can be international, they can be American, they can come from East, West, North, South. I don't care. I want great players that fit our culture. Trying to fundraise for NIL. Obviously, you're going to have money to retain players and to get good players. That's just the way, that's the new landscape. And so I tell our fans all the time, they're like, all right, how are we going to win the championship? How good are we going to be? And I said, well, I didn't have a dollar of NIL. We didn't have a dollar of NIL. So, you know, to go get some of the players I wanted, we lost out. They got paid. They loved us, but could you match this? All things equal, they loved us. You don't have any money. So, you know, we're going to have to fundraise for NIL. So if you want You're a big fan of women's basketball and you want us to be successful. We need NIL money. We're going to have to start fundraising for that. Obviously, we fundraise for a lot of our programs money. Booster account is great, but we gotta. The future is NIL, and we've got to have enough to at least retain great players once we skill develop them. Um, and get them good, and you can't lose them to the higher levels. And so, starting to develop a business plan, not just, it can't just be me, it's got to be our school. And that will lay future to, you know, how long I stay, or what my future plans are. As long as I'm happy and I enjoy and I love what I'm doing. In the climate I'm doing it in. And I don't think any coach can answer any different. Once I stop enjoying what I'm doing, and again, if this becomes more and more transactional and less transformational, then maybe I go try to WNBA, or I go into, business in the front office at a different level. But, I one of the coaches I respect the most in this college athletics was Tony Bennett from UVA. You won't find a higher morality or character guy. And his why of why he coaches every day, he wakes up happy to coach. His why was gone. It was gone. It's now a business. So everything he stands on and what he stands for, he couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't play a facade no matter how much money you paid him. And you'll see that happen more and more. You see it all the time. Lisa Bluter got out. A lot of great coaches are leaving our game because they don't want to be in this climate. It's very different, and it goes against every moral fabric in their body of why they coach. And so now they'll find another opportunity. I can't say if I'll stay, if I go. I can't. I have no idea. I'm just lost in the moment of loving what I do right now, where I'm at. I love Rhody. I love my team. I love my staff. I love our administration. I love our fans. I've always said that. It's a question of, will I still love this game? And where is our game going? And what is it going to become? If we're going to become a G League, let's be a G League. I agree with Gino. As a coach, if I want to leave right now, I have a buyout. It's a business. I don't just get to up and leave like most people think. Someone's going to pay this school $700,000 if they want me this year. Then URI gets to use that money for whatever they want. Could be NIL, could be buy another coach. So if coaches do that, if we pay a kid 2-3 years NIL, it's a 3-year deal. If they want to leave, they should have to sign a contract, get their money. If they want to leave, well, then their buyout should be their NIL per year. That other school that wants them needs to buy that buyout out, pay the new NIL. So now our school gets to use that NIL money and go buy another player. It's a business. That's what that is. And so for coaches and players alike, I just think we need to come to an agreement. And I believe players should make money. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but there are absolutely no ramifications from just jumping ship and going and making more and not having any obligation for what they say they're going to do. There are no contracts. I believe it's a business now. There should be. So I just think corralling our future of our sport and what we want to be, um, it Tony Bennett was right. In 3 or 4 years, maybe it's landed and it's stable and everyone knows what it is. But right now, and every 6 months, it's kind of a free for all. Um, and I don't think anyone thought it would come to pay for play as bad as it is. Um, and boosters can just go buy players. Um, I don't think anyone thought that that's what it was going to be, but that's what it is. And so we just have to be able to navigate it and finalize it. And then I think it'll be stabilized. But I don't know what the future holds. I just know what this year holds and what our goals are and what my goals are. But I'm living like half the kids now. It's day to day, and I'm not looking toward too far ahead. I'm not looking in the past. I'm looking at navigating where I'm at And when changes come a flying, just be fluid and pivot and go with the flow. And I'll coach as long as I'm happy. That I've always said. And once I'm not happy, I'll move on. I've always done something else. I've always been able to pivot and find a place. But happiness for me, my health, my family, and my happiness comes first. This is a job. It's a job. In the end, they'd fire me tomorrow if I wasn't good. They could care less. So you got your health, you got your family, and you got your happiness. And I've always first.
Well, it seems pretty obvious that those qualities are what you hammer into your players every day, and it's representative of what they're able to do on the court. And clearly, that sort of mentality of just focusing on what's in front of you and just taking it day by day is what every coach preaches. But I feel like so many in this game really struggle to follow it. But it's evident that that's one of the main reasons why your program has been so successful and why I'm so excited to see what is going to come, not only this season, but I mean, just in seasons down the line, given the foundation that you've put in place. And I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to sit down with me and discuss all of this. This was fantastic. I've learned so much from I've only done these 2 interviews to start, and I've learned so much about your program and just so much of the intricacies that go into building a program like this. And I mean, it just makes me appreciate more as a journalist, but also as a fan, to see what you guys have been able to do and what you specifically have been able to establish in terms of both actual basketball success, because you guys play absolutely beautiful basketball, but outside of that, because there's so much more to doing college basketball and being a player. And you touched on it there, where it's you need to be a successful student athlete. Like, this isn't a transactional sort of, it shouldn't be. And it should be
No.
about building yourself, building these players into great people while also making them the best players that they can be. And
Well,
yeah.
Mark, it's really not me. I have an incredible staff that works so hard. That and our mission statement is the welfare of the student athlete. So whatever they need, and my assistants are at their beck and call. I mean, the time they spend with them, our administration, the things they do for us. It's just, when I say Rhody's like a family, it really is. Like, everyone knows everyone's name. You support each other, but you're only as successful as the people around you. And I thank God every day. I've had great assistants past, and now I have great assistants now, and our support staff, from our practice guys this year to our managers. We do. I'm very, very blessed with great people in our program. And we're a we when we have our success. When we have our failures, we're a we. But I would not have been at all successful without the people that have done this journey with me and formed our Rhody family. And one of the big ones, one of them is my brother, and that's Agni. I consider him my brother. That's my family. He's built this. This is ours, not mine. It's ours. We came together and we've done it together. And that's why I just believe, whatever happens in the future, whether it's, I would to step away or I got sick or whatever, he's ready to take over. And he's the head coach in waiting, as he should be, and because he built this. And so, you really I have to be very grateful and very thankful for the people that, I've been blessed with, because they're incredible.
Well, that's amazing to hear. I love hearing just how these coaches feel about these particular situations, and giving the credit to the members of your staff to really just show the hard work that they put in. I mean, it's why I do my podcast. It's really what drives me, is to give coaches like yourself and athletes like your players and everyone that works in these programs or works in athletics in general a platform to really discuss themselves. So it gives fans and it gives people that are interested in just U or I in general, but even U or I women's basketball fans, it gives them more of an insight into who you guys are off of the court and outside of whatever they write on Go Rhody. And I just love hearing stuff like that because it emphasizes and really hammers the point home that this program is a family, and that's what it is from start to finish, and that's how it is. It's not just a team, and there's so much more to that, and that is directly correlated to the success that you guys have had on the court thus far and will continue to have. And I just have to say, I'm so excited to continue doing this project. It's going to span throughout the course of your season, and will end right before I graduate in May. But I mean, I remember talking about this with you at the, I think it was the blue and white scrimmage for men's basketball 2 years ago. And I had just thought of it. I went to dinner with my mom, and she was like, and my parents, they were like, I was like, oh, they're asking me to do an honors project. I don't really know. They're like, no, you're doing one. They're like, you're doing it. And I had thought of this idea, and I was like, oh my gosh, this could be a really cool project if I'm able to do it right. And over this past year, I've really thought about it. I was trying to think of the different stuff I wanted to talk about with you. But I feel like that just what we discuss is everything that I had envisioned. It's the stuff that I wanted to hear. And it's the stuff that, quite frankly, I expected to hear from you in terms of what I've seen from watching you as a coach and seeing how you interact. I've had a bunch of your players on my podcast over the years, from Sophie to Say to Didi, and from players that have been with you for a long time and have been with you for a short period of time. And all they talk about regarding you and your staff is just glowing and how much that you've had an impact on their lives. And I feel like that's something that hopefully that I'm able to convey through this project. And when I go to do the article that I'm going to publish, and when I publish these interviews over the course of this season, is that people realize that there's so much more to building a program than just putting results together on the court and getting guys and girls that know how to shoot the ball and are able to get the ball in the basket. But it's building a program of respect and of honor and of dignity where everyone's supporting each other, and that's where you get the most success. And you've done that, done a tremendous job in doing that. And I mean, be quite frank, I applaud you for what you've been able to do.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, and I'm so happy. I'm really excited for this project, and I'm also excited to see you graduate and where you're going to go from here in May.
Yeah, I mean, we got a long time to figure that out. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm hoping that this, working with you guys and putting this project together, and ultimately when I have to present it, because there's a big honors project, like presentation toward the end of the year where I have to present this project, will be a good send-off for everything that I've done. Because the way that I've described this, because I had to pitch this to like so many people before we even got to the point where we can sit down and do these interviews. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing that I said was that this project and everything that I'm talking about exemplifies everything that I've wanted to do at URI. And it's to tell the story of a program that people deserve to know and that they should understand. And obviously, I've had the pleasure of working with so many different teams on campus at URI and across New England through other stuff that I've been able to do. And I've never met so many players who are consistently just genuinely great people than the girls that I've met on your program and the members of your staff that I've had the privilege of talking to. And it's really that's why I wanted to do this. And that's why I felt that this was the story that I wanted to tell. And I mean, like I said, I'm so grateful that you took the time to speak with me. I'm very much looking forward to speaking with you over the course of this season in passing. And I'm really eager to see the product you guys put out on the court this year, because I know that the last couple of seasons have been incrementally improving, but you haven't hit where I think you believe you should be just yet. And I know that this season is going to be a good one. You obviously talked about that there's going to be some challenges. There's going to be some bumps. This is a young roster, but I think that based on what I've seen over the past few years I've been here, I think that this is going to be one of the more successful seasons that you guys have. And I'm thrilled that this is the year I chose to do this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Mark, and go Rhody.